If your blood runs orange and blue, this is the pod for you. You're listening to Orange and Blue Bloods, hosted by EJ Stewart and Tommy Beer. Let's get to it.
Knicks got back into the win column after dominating the Houston Rockets at Madison Square Garden Monday. Knicks won 137-115 and were led by an absolute dazzling performance from Immanuel Quickley. He started in place of Jalen Brunson, who was out again with the hand injury. IQ posted a career-high 40 points on 14 for 18 shooting. He had 9 assists in this one, so an all-around dominant performance from Immanuel Quickley. Knicks also got a bounce-back performance from Julius Randle, who had 26 points in this game. RJ Barrett added 19 points on this game, shooting 6 for 12. Knicks only led by 5 at half, and the defense struggled in the first half to contain the Houston Rockets, but they tightened up their defense in the second half, outscoring Houston 71-54 in the second half. The Knicks really extended this lead. That second unit got out there and really started doing damage. They got the lead up to 33 points at one point in the second half. So a big second half for the Knicks allows them to make this one a laugher. Kevin Porter led the Rockets with 26. Jalen Green had 19. Tommy, when it comes to Immanuel Quickley and this game we saw from him, I mean, I would say that at this point, they're not really surprising. I mean, when he goes out there, you expect him to have a big impact. And with the growth you've seen from him this season, is it fair to say that he might be the Knicks' third best player at this point?
Yeah, I mean, and for certain stretches, you could argue he's been their second best player, their first best player on many a night. But yeah, to say the least, he's been their third best player, and it's probably closer than a lot of people think. And you know, the fact that he hasn't cracked that top two is just a testament to how well Randall and Brunson have played, essentially at an all NBA level. But yeah, I mean, you cannot say enough about IQ. We know about the sixth man of the year, how he's basically gone from an afterthought long shot, at the All-Star break to now the odds-on favorite.
I'm kicking myself and I find him a spot in Jersey to get that Wi-Fi and just log that bet for IQ, because that would have been a whole lot of bread.
So true. I hope people that were listening, locked in that had access here in New York. You can't bet on these on those type of odds for some reason. I don't, that has never been fully explained to me. But nevertheless, we know about the production off the bench now with Brogdon dinged up the last couple weeks, and IQ taking his game to another level. That seems like a lock. But also when Brunson's been out, IQ stepped into the starting lineup and stepped in. Last night was the 17th game he started the season. So not 4 games, not 8 games. This is 17 games. It's a decent sample size. In those 17 contests, IQ was averaging 21.1 points, 5.2 rebounds, 5 assists versus just 1 turnover, 2.8 made three-pointers, while posting a true shooting percentage of just shy of 60%, 59.8%. That's really good. To put that in context, there are only 5 players that have matched or exceeded those numbers in those categories in games they've started the season, minimum 15 starts. Those 5 players: Luka Doncic, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry. Again, that's points, assists, rebounds, threes, and a shooting percentage of above 59%. A lot of the talk when the Knicks were pursuing Jalen Brunson was, we like, Brunson's a great player. He showed that he can be a really, really good player, but a lot of Knicks fans wanted IQ to get an opportunity to start. And for these reasons, he's shown that in the games he started. Now, fortunately for New York, Leon Rose brought Jalen Brunson into town, and having the combo of them is obviously better than having just one of them, certainly with as well as Brunson's played and what turns out to be a value contract. It's descending in contract structure, all that good stuff. And speaking of contracts, IQ playing so well is going to put the Knicks in a tough position this summer, because his agent's going to come to the table and play that Fat Joe. Yesterday's price is not today's price. He's going to be asking for a lengthy, a lucrative extension, and we'll see if the Knicks how high the Knicks are willing to go. If IQ and his representatives are willing to meet him somewhere in the middle, because he could easily say, "Listen, I want to push this thing to restricted free agency. I think somebody will take a swing, offer up a big price tag." But those are conversations for another day. Just as far as Monday night's game goes, and to directly answer your question, there's been a lot of storylines, a lot of stuff we've talked about this year. Obviously, Brunson, one of the best free agent signings in franchise history. Randall, from All NBA to a terrible season, back to All NBA production, with some hiccups in between. Grimes emerging as a reliable starter. The Hartenstein free agent acquisition really paying huge dividends. The Josh Hart acquisition at the trade deadline that took the Knicks from good to very, very good, and kind of vaulted them up to a higher tier. All those things considered in terms of how it impacts the Knicks' success this season and how it will impact the Knicks' success 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. The ascension, the emergence of Immanuel Quickley this season into the player that he's become before our very eyes is incredibly significant and arguably as important as all those other pieces, because he more than likely will be a Knick for a long time. And this is kind of his coming of age season, and it's been a joy to watch.
It's been an absolute joy to watch, and because Tommy called for it, I felt like I gotta hit it.
Yesterday's price is not today's price. Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Yeah, that Immanuel Quickley extension. Ooh, the money is gonna come to him is gonna be big. It may require the Knicks to make some tough decisions elsewhere, but no, there is a fact that Immanuel Quickley has to remain on this team. He has to be a part of this future. And look, I'm not gonna say every point and every take on this show that we make is gonna be right, but I am proud of the fact that when Immanuel was not playing as good as he is right now, that me and you both sat on this podcast and said, this is a man that you cannot trade. This is a guy that you have to keep in the fold. And now Immanuel Quickley really showing the dividends for the Knicks, that they did keep that trust in him and did not trade him for a future first-round pick. I mean, that would have been a disaster if they would have did something like that. So you get this performance from him. I do feel like he really is growing into the third best player. Sometimes, like, what I need people to understand is, like, when we had this conversation as third best player, fourth best player, like, sometimes you say, okay, but man, Quickley's third best player, that means, that means RJ is not that good. It's like, well, not necessarily. I mean, it could just mean you got a good team. Like RJ Barrett had a good game yesterday. He's been playing better of late. But what Immanuel Quickley brings on both sides of the floor every single night, and what Tibbs kind of talked about in the post game, I was trying to find the sound, I couldn't find it, but he kind of said what I said after the Boston game, which is like, again, this guy is a chameleon. I mean, he can be anything you need him to be. So he can come off the bench. He can snipe as a spot up shooter. You need him to come off the bench and find his offense as a primary ball handler. He can do that. He can start and be a primary ball handler and get guys involved. He can start and look for his own shot. He can start and play off the ball next to another point guard. So as Tibbs said last night, he's a plug and play type of guy. And the fact that you have that kind of guy on your roster that you can just plug in for your all-star caliber, all-NBA point guard, and you lose no production. Like, the Knicks lost no production from what they would have gotten from Jalen Brunson in a game like that. I mean, it was funny looking at Brunson on the sidelines. He was like kind of laughing, just like, man, like, I wish I could have got out there and got some of these buckets. This looks a lot of fun, a lot easier than maybe some of these other games I've dealt with. And one thing I will say about the Brunson effect that I don't think I've heard a lot of people talk about is, I think, because we know the Knicks practice hard, I think practicing against Brunson every single day has made Immanuel Quickley a lot better. Because the guys, he's been practicing with, playing with, studying film with before, haven't been guys that are, upper echelon guys. Derrick Rose is a great vet, and I'm sure, Derrick Rose can teach him a lot, but he hasn't played with an upper echelon guard since he's been with the New York Knicks. Now you're playing with Jalen Brunson. Now you're in practice with Jalen Brunson. So you're seeing what Jalen Brunson is able to do on the court, how he's able to get to his spots, how he's able to manipulate a defense. And you start to pick up on the thing. You start to say, hey, I can do that. Or how do I add this to my game? Or just guarding a guy like that and knowing how challenging he is. Then when you go up against a lot of these other guards in the NBA, maybe it's not as hard guarding those guys if you're prepared. And Quick talks about how much he watches film on the other teams, and he's really become a film nerd when it comes to that aspect of the game. I think that being around such a great player like Brunson in the backcourt, but also such a great pro, has really helped Immanuel Quickley a lot. I think that's a point about his game that hasn't been talked about enough. I know he talked a lot about Johnny Bryant. Surprise, surprise. Johnny Bryant helping another Knick through this season. We've heard that a bunch. But I do want to shout out Bryant, but I think his time with Brunson, we've seen how much that has impacted his game.
Yeah, a lot of times we joke around about off-season work and I'm in the best shape of my life and I put on 10 pounds of muscle. We heard all that from Immanuel Quickley this offseason, and we kind of laughed about it because we joke around about all these guys are
Yeah.
always but credit to
They're all coming in with in the best shape of their life, all the same stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, and posting workout videos for Instagram. But credit to IQ, he put the work in this offseason, and
Yeah.
it showed. We know about the extra muscle that he added that's helped him become a better finisher. Not only does he have the floater, he has that quick little turnaround when he gets that 1 foot in the paint, and that mid-range jumper has been a real revelation in his game this season.
Yeah.
Continually adding points. Getting to the free throw line, adding points that way.
Yeah.
Become incredibly efficient. Scored 40 points on 18 field goal attempts yesterday. 9 assists, 1 turnover. Again, he talked about, as we've talked about, start of the game, I want to get everybody involved, but he also realized the Knicks needed to snap out of things. So there's that goes into it. The other component, and we'll talk about in a second, was playing the Rockets, who look like an AAU team out there that just have no cohesion look at just hunting highlights offensively, really no idea how to defend. And the Knicks did not look good in the first half, letting that team on the back end of a back-to-back hang around. They were only up 5 points at halftime, and they would have been losing had it not been Immanuel Quickley essentially pitching a perfect game over the first 2 quarters, and then everyone kind of caught fire. It was good to see Obi snap out of a nasty slump in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
He scored 15 points in the final frame. They finally got Grimes involved in the action in the second half. He hits 4 3-pointers, career high 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Again, we'll say it again. We'll continue to say it. Get Grimes involved in the offense. Good things happen. They finally started to do that a little bit more. But yeah, the certainly the takeaway has been the improved play of Immanuel Quickley, and arguably his best game as a pro. Obviously the Boston game was kind of his announcement to the national stage. But this game certainly speaks a lot about just what he's capable of doing. And remember, kid's just 23 years old.
Yeah.
Again, I feel like we have to mention it. This is a guy that was coming off the bench behind Alex Burks, a 30-year-old shooting guard. IQ doesn't have that many reps with the starting lineup and at high level. He didn't get those reps, as many reps as you would have liked last season. But we've seen when he's put in position and given an opportunity to succeed, this kid continues again and again and again to do just that. And just his consistency on both ends of the floor he's been the metronome of the Knicks season. Randall, you get these swings, these emotional outbursts up and down. He didn't look great yesterday, and he finally addressed the media. We'll talk about that in a minute. Obviously, Brunson's kind of been in and out of the lineup the last few weeks. He plays so hard every night. He's going to get dinged up. And obviously when he's on the floor, he's been fantastic. But IQ, night in, night out, his shooting kind of, he'll go through a little hot streak, then a little slow streak. He's not an elite perimeter shooter yet in terms of percentages, but it seems like when you need shots, he makes them. And then again, even when his shots aren't falling, kind of the quarterback of the defense on the perimeter just gives you so much on both ends of the floor. Just his there's something to be said for him just showing up every day, bringing that right attitude. He plays with a joy that's infectious. You see him skipping around the court. It's just really hard to overstate how important he is to the Knicks.
And you talk about him being so even keeled. I mean, to me, I even think about that incident with Randall last week where, Randall's a big 6'9", 250-pound sledgehammer, and he's yelling down, bearing down on you. A lot of guys would kind of step away and shy away and, maybe kind of, get a little, tail between their legs. IQ stood right in there and said, all right, what are we going to do? And then they just went right back into the locker room. And then I kind of was wondering how that second half would go, and he was great in that second half. I mean, he's unflappable. It doesn't matter what you ask him to do. It doesn't matter what situation he's in. You're always going to get the same Immanuel Quickley. Shots may fall, shots may not fall, but you're always going to get the same effort. And what I will say about the hot and cold streaks with him is that you see that the cold streaks are a lot less, or they're not as long. There used to be times where it seemed like Quickley couldn't make a shot for 3 weeks, and those may be a game or two, and then he gets back to playing at a more steady
and a lot of that
level.
has to do with in years past that would be the case, but this year it's been the slumps are shortened because he does a better job getting the paint, getting the free throw line, as opposed to relying strictly on those perimeter shots.
Yeah, I mean that game Monday night. I mean, Kevin Porter was in hell trying to guard him, and the Rockets have a lot of issues regarding like what they're doing with their backcourt. I don't know how you can play a backcourt with Kevin Porter and Jalen Green at this point. Like, both guys are talented, but neither is a point guard. Neither guy can defend. So I'm watching this game, and Immanuel Quickley is just cutting these guys up, and I'm like, you don't have a guy to run out there and just pick them up 94 feet and try to slow things down. Like, they had no chance. So a lot of problems with the Rockets.
One other thing I was thinking about last night was watching that Rockets team was just knowing. Be careful what you wish for sometimes, because I understand a lot of Knick fans were hoping for a complete teardown and rebuild.
Yeah.
There is something to be said for getting a guy like Brunson, keeping a guy like Randall, and this way you're at worst you'll be competitive most nights, and then if things go right and Immanuel Quickley takes a huge step forward and Grimes emerges as a solid starter, you can you're 11 games above 500, and then all of a sudden you can be excited about the playoffs. Whereas the Rockets, yes, they are at the start of a rebuild, and they have a lot of picks, and maybe they get Wembanyama and everything turns around. But this is a hard team to root for. There's just not, Jabari Smith has had moments, looks pretty good. It looks like he'll be a good player. But there's the way they compete on a night in, night out basis has been rough. On the flip side of the coin, you got the Magic, who we saw them play Thursday. That's a team you'd love to root for over the next 5 years, buy stock in them, that type of thing. But I just thought it was interesting thinking about the directions of the Knicks franchise could have taken recently. When you rebuild and get all these draft picks, it looks good on paper, but then you got to sit through 6 months of watching, Kevin Porter Jr. and defense, those type of things can be tough.
Yeah, it's like there's a spectrum, right? There's the OKC Thunder, and the Magic, probably in the middle, and then there's the Rockets. So it's like you can be on any one of these spectrums. You love to be the Thunder. You probably would feel good about being the Magic, but if you're the Rockets, you're like, all right, 3 years from now, let's hope this thing works out, because who knows where we are right now.
Or the Spurs, like
that,
that they're like, if they don't win this lottery, what's their path towards sustained success? I don't know.
Yeah. Watching this game, do you feel like are you convinced the Knicks are back on track? They had that really rough first half defensively. They did score the ball. A lot to do with it, maybe quickly scoring the ball, but they did score the ball at a high rate against this team, which is one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. You saw in the second half. One shout out I think you got to give to is Mitchell Robinson. I thought that he kind of changed just kind of the impact and feel of the game with some of those blocks in the second half, where he's just ripping the ball out of guys' hands. I mean, the stuff that you see from NBA Street. I mean, he had a really good defensive second half. He had 3 blocks in total for this game. Do you feel like Knicks maybe got themselves back on track in that second half, or you feel like it's kind of more of a wait and see for these next upcoming games?
I'm on a wait and see approach. I think this game Wednesday is fascinating on so many levels. Obviously, the importance of it, and we'll get into standing wise and all those stuff. But just in terms of where the Knicks are, one, did the Knicks get Brunson back? If he is not healthy for this Miami game, the most important game of the season, that's a worrisome sign. I think nobody was shocked that he sat out Monday. Just to, again, err on the side of caution, give him a little bit extra rest. But if he sits out Wednesday's game, then there's a little bit of a cause for concern. If it's a sprained wrist, initially it was a hand, now it's a sprained wrist. You see him on the bench with the air cast on. Again, we're not going to speculate. You don't want to read too much into it. Let's see if he's. It said that he'd been cleared fully and practiced fully with the team over the weekend. That's very encouraging news. Let's see where he is at Wednesday night if he's in the starting lineup.
Yeah, Breen said. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I heard that. That Breen just said he's expected to play.
He said during the game that he wanted to play Monday night. Like, he wanted to play in that Rockets game, and that the Knicks held him back, which I actually enjoyed hearing that, honestly.
Yes.
Because, I feel like with this Knicks team and this tenure under Thibodeau, like, they've been more inclined to just throw him back out there. Guys hurt, guys a little tired, and they need JB as healthy and as rested as possible. A game against the Rockets, where you got to win the game, you hope that your other guys like Immanuel Quickley, somebody can step up and get that W. So I was happy to see that. He maybe could have played if they needed him to, but also B, that they decided, let's rest on the air. Let's on the side of caution here, and let's get you another game of rest here.
Totally. And the other good thing about the blowout, and Obi played well in the fourth quarter, is Randall
Yep.
only played 27 minutes last night. Again, as much time and extra, minutes and rest you can buy him is much important. Not only just ahead of the Heat game on Wednesday, but also just obviously the 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the playoffs start. So, but the other thing is the first half was not good. There was not a good first half. They coming off a 3-game losing streak. Immanuel Quickley called this a must-win. He said it was a must-win game after the win on MSG. So they knew they needed to come out and play well. They didn't play well that first half. Defensively, they were atrocious. So I need to see a little bit more. You mentioned, I thought Mitch set the tone. Third quarter, 3 blocks, like in the first 4 or 5 minutes. And I think really kind of, changed the vibe and just kind of changed the tenor of the game. And you know what you're going to get from Hart. 2 steals, 2 blocks again. Hartenstein had another great game, plus 32 in just 25 minutes, 6 assists for him. So those guys are going to contribute. The Randall thing is a little bit worrisome. He didn't seem to have that vim and vigor, that energy. Even when he
I thought he had a good first. I thought he had a good first quarter.
His first quarter was good.
Yeah.
I think 6 of 9, 11 points.
Yeah.
So he's going to come out well. But I'm just talking about his body language. Just didn't seem great. And he's the type of guy, even when he scores, he kind of puts his head down and doesn't really, I don't want to say ignores his teammates, but they almost seem to have to try to get his attention and don't want to be overly exuberant. And it's just that kind of dour, it's focused energy. And certainly when it's focused in the right direction, it seems well. But coming off last week, them keeping him away from the media, didn't talk to the media after Thursday, didn't talk Friday, didn't talk Saturday, finally talked to the media pre-game after the shoot around. But it's just until kind of Randall gets back on track, until we see that Brunson's healthy, until RJ kind of plays consistently. He was coming off a bad game Thursday, played pretty well on Monday night. Kind of did what the Knicks needed him to do.
Yeah.
Those are kind of things we'll need to see, before I say the Knicks are back on track and kind of full steam ahead. And Wednesday's a great test. This is why you play. This is why you compete for, the first 70 plus games of the season. So you put yourself in position. Whereas if you can knock off the Heat, you can all but secure a top 5 seed.
Knicks win 137-115 against Houston. Give my man RJ Barrett some calls, please. Like, what was the refereeing in this game? Like it was like Randall kind of like, complaining his way into getting some calls finally. Like I thought in the first quarter they made a point to like give him calls that he was not getting, and then like RJ was like getting mauled going to the basket, and he had 3 turnovers. I felt like 2 of them were fouls. Like it was just like I don't know what was going on with that. So hopefully the referee can kind of balance out. I'm happy Randall started getting some calls. Barrett had 9 free throws. He could have had 15. Like the Rockets can't guard. Like so he's getting contact going to the rim, and like they weren't calling any. So I don't know what that was about. But Knicks get the win. But let's focus.